Hi, everybody. It's Game Time presented by YouTube TV. I'm Matt Weiner. That's the Czar, Mike Fratello, David Griffin right over there. Good to have you along with us. Can you believe summer in the NBA has begun already?
Amazing. Such an early start to the season. It feels strange to be here before Father's Day.
Weird.
Kind of a strange series in the end.
There are a lot of strange things along the way to get us to this point, the early summer in the NBA. We are all living in Golden State's world as the Dubs bask in their third title in 4 years now. The Warriors touched down in Oakland this afternoon, bringing along with them the Larry O'Brien trophy they picked up Friday night after sweeping the Cavaliers in Cleveland. Steve Kerr helped lead the delegation and talked about the relief that comes from winning after a trying season.
Probably the most difficult one. This is a long year, long, difficult season, but definitely all worth it in the end. Just an amazing finish, and I thought our guys played probably their best game of the playoffs last night, so they saved the best for last.
Have you slept at all?
Not much, not much. I don't really feel like it right now. I'll get tired at some point, but not yet.
How was the flight, Steve? Would you guys sleep on it mostly?
I didn't sleep, but a lot of the players slept. Coaches we just listened to music and laughed and smiled our whole way back.
Did you spend some time with Larry?
I didn't really spend time with Larry. Larry was up front with the players, but that's all right. We'll see more of them later.
Who got it last night?
I have no idea.
How many champagnes did you guys open?
What's that?
How many champagnes have you opened? Yeah.
How many bottles of champagne?
Yeah.
Too many. I need some sleep.
Has Nick Young kind of been heading up the celebration? Kind of seems like
Nick is definitely in charge of the celebration. Yeah, he's. I think you'll be seeing some of Nick here shortly.
Looking forward to the parade.
Yeah, parade's going to be awesome. It's such a great day. We're making it an annual event, so.
No, it's a special. Every year, you know what I mean? It was harder to get here this year, but just to be able to come home to the love, it's awesome.
Nick Young seems to be the unofficial party host for this group coming back from Cleveland to the Bay Area. Then again, this could be a Tuesday for Nick Young, right? I mean, this may not be that unusual in his daily life.
He looks a little bit like he took a page out of the J.R. Smith party book, in fact.
Yes.
I have seen this look from J.R. in a very similar fashion.
Very reminiscent of J.R. Smith back in 2016. Well, now you have to start looking at this team in terms of historical perspective, where they rank among the great NBA teams of all time. They're the first to win 3 titles in such a short period of time since the Lakers repeated back at the turn of the centuries. I don't know how you define a dynasty. There's no real definition for it. I guess what I'm more interested in here, Czar, is how many more can they rack up, considering that Steph Curry is the oldest of the core 4, if you will, at the age of 30.
It's kind of scary when you think about who they have under contract. It's the core group, okay? When you see that they have 7 names, 8 names that at the end of this season, which is over right now, are gone. They're out of contract unless they want to bring them back. But the guys that are the most important guys are all locked in, and they could win another 2, 3 very easily with this group if they remain healthy.
You'll see the list. Durant can opt out. The assumption is he will be back in Golden State. It would be a stunner to everybody if he walked away. But if you look at this team moving forward, to me, barring some sort of LeBron James super team that he either forms or joins that could threaten this group, this is the team to beat for at least 2 more years, maybe 3 more years to come.
You would certainly think they will be, and obviously they're trying to get in front of it and extend some of those core pieces as early as they can. Klay Thompson, they can extend. Draymond Green's eligible to sign an extension. Whether they will or not remains to be seen, but we see the list of the guys here that they lose in theory or could potentially lose. I think of those guys, Coach, JaVale McGee and Kevon Looney were really the ones that were the most significant during this playoff and finals run. In all likelihood, 1 or 2 of those guys may be back. But what makes this group so special, you said it earlier, that nucleus is together. In addition to that, they have all of their first-round picks into the future as well. And if you look at Bob Myers' history in this draft, he's done awfully well picking late, and obviously the move they made to get Jordan Bell with the second-round pick was substantial as well.
Yeah, we'll hear from him in a few minutes' time. The Durant situation, as I mentioned, it's hard to imagine him not coming back to this opportunity he has. In the meantime, he can enjoy back-to-back NBA Finals MVPs in his second straight win. He joins this list of players who have won consecutive Finals MVPs, probably sealed it with the 43-point Game 3 performance along the way. But over the course of the 4 games, what impressed you most about KD?
His efficiency, I think. The fact that he was able to be as significant as he was on both sides of the floor without needing to take bad shots. He just took what was there for him. He exerted his will when he needed to. When Steph had it going, he was willing to play in the background, be a defensive piece, protect the rim. He just did everything that the team needed whenever they needed it. And we see him here with the turnaround over Jeff Green. One of the things that got him rolling was the Cavs were switching so much. And, Coach, we talked about this on Finals Film Room. He was shooting over George Hill quite often to get his first shots, and it was like shooting over a chair. He got a rhythm, and he just did whatever he needed to do when they needed it.
I still think there's something to be said with Steph Curry's performance. I'm not trying to take anything away from what Kevin Durant did. He was terrific. But when you look back at the numbers from Steph Curry, he had one game where he didn't shoot the ball well. But the other 3 games, he was spectacular in what he did, the points he put up, the shots that he made. So there could be very easy an argument there that maybe they miscounted on the 7-4 final vote. Okay.
Well, the vote was very close, and really it was the worst shooting performance of Steph Curry's playoff career that probably doomed his MVP chances.
Yeah, but he sure put some points up there other than the one game.
And
he did.
And I'll tell you the other thing about Steph that's so critical to your point about what he did for them. The energy that he brings to that group when he hits that 3 right at the end of the first half in Game 1. Cleveland had played an almost flawless first half in Oakland, and he hits that 3 when JR gambles, and then he goes to the shimmy. And for that energy to be in that building for halftime, it got them completely ready to roll in the second half, and they really never looked back from that point on, even though we like to focus on those big moments at the end of Game 1.
Sure.
That was a far more significant play.
Well, Durant led the Warriors in scoring, easily the best plus-minus over the course of the 4-game series, 33 points better than Klay Thompson, who was number 2. But even he acknowledges that the 3 that Steph hit during that miserable shooting night back in Game 3 was as big as any shot in that game. Meanwhile, Steve Kerr's charmed coaching career continues. An unprecedented start to a career for Kerr, who earned his 8th ring as a player or a coach. He already had the best playoff win percentage ever, and to listen to Steph Curry, it's clear he also has the unwavering attention of his players.
His purposeful over-communication when it comes to all 15 guys knowing, their role and how things can change throughout the course of a year, making sure everybody was ready. But also just an appreciation for, I guess, him having been in this situation with, playing as a player, knowing how to deal with other humans with, just the roller coaster ride of emotions that can kind of come with this journey. So he's been amazing. He's got a great staff that kind of all feed off of him, and there's a true kind of authenticity about him that is refreshing.
And anybody who knows Steve Kerr will vouch for that, certainly. In terms of what he's done as a coach, and he'd be the first to tell you he's got great players playing for him, but what has been his stamp on this team during his time?
Well, the first thing he came out and did when he got the job was acknowledge what Mark Jackson had done before him and put a lot of credit in Mark Jackson's direction as far as the beginning, the forming of this group. And then he took them and changed their style of play completely. He gave them a belief. I think he let them understand that, look, you guys are championship material. You have, we can go out and do a lot of damage here and win a championship, and was able to convey to them how hard you have to work, what it's all about. I've been there. I've played with maybe the greatest player ever to play the game, and knowing your roles, knowing how you have to be unselfish to play. But I thought the big thing was he communicated that it's just not going to happen at the offensive end. We have to be good at the other end as well, and they were.
And to that point, I think the selflessness it took to build his staff in the way he did, going out and getting Ron Adams, who is as good and as dense a defensive coach as you can be in terms of just total basketball acumen, to go out after Mike Brown when he was able to get him to replace Alvin Gentry, surrounding himself with other former head coaches, what he did in empowering and enabling Luke Walton to become the coach he became. It's very reflective of the general ethos of the organization. Steph is obviously one of the people who drives this, but Bob Myers should get a lot of this credit too. The selflessness that all of those three embody is a very large reason why we're talking about a dynasty here, because they allow for the greatness of other people to grow and flourish.
And now they get a little extra vacation. This was the first NBA Finals sweep since the Spurs bageled the Cavs back in '07. And by combined total point margin, this was the most lopsided finals in league history, and that's including an overtime back in Game 1. Obviously, that Game 1 finish is going to be talked about for a long time, aside from the obvious that the Cavaliers would have scored a win had they not mismanaged the game there late. How did the way it ended change the tenor of the series moving forward?
Well, I think it's very reminiscent of the Cavaliers-Toronto Raptors series, where Toronto found a way to give away a game at the end. And the emotional scar that leaves when you already enter it with a very fine margin for error and maybe confidence issues relative to your ability to go over a particular hump, I think it just completely unraveled for them. And I think you saw that with Cleveland. And what's even more representative of that to me is what we later found out about LeBron and the backboard and the whiteboard in his hand, right? I think it was very clear that that moment was the end of an unraveling that really began at about the 5-minute mark in the fourth, when they just started focusing on everything they didn't control. You lose that game, and it's just a slippery slope from there.
You heard LeBron James say Friday night he basically played the last 3 games with a broken hand. He came out with a cast on his hand. In terms of strategy or rotation changes, look, the Warriors came into this thing huge favorites, and they wound up sweeping the series. Is there anything that Ty Lue or the players could have done differently to change the outcome and at least take a game or two here?
You know, I had a couple of people along the way text me messages or leave messages saying, why don't they do this or why don't they do that? And sometimes as a coach, you can only do what your players are capable of doing.
Right.
So when somebody says, well, why don't you take LeBron and make him a screener on this person so that now when they switch, the problem is who's going to make the pass when you take LeBron off the basketball? Because the Cavaliers were not a highly skilled group of basketball players. They can do certain things in their respective little bubble that they're in. When you take that away, if you look at the shooting percentages, and Griff had just gone over them a while ago, in that 4-game series, what Golden State's defense did to the Cavaliers, it was incredible. When you have them shooting, what, low 30% from the field, the 5 or 6 key guys that took the majority of the shots, when you can't score and make shots against a championship team, on paper, Matt, you know this from the beginning of the series, Golden State's a better team.
Sure.
But that's why you play the games.
Right.
And I would have, and I'll never know, would have loved to have seen what would have happened if Cleveland would have won that first game. And that's why I think LeBron acted the way he did, because he understood the magnitude of that loss. And if it would have gone their way, what it could have meant to the series.
Huge opportunity lost there. I don't know that it would have changed the ultimate outcome, but it certainly would have changed the progression of the thing and given the Cavaliers confidence moving forward as well. We'll have all summer and the rest of history to talk about that. Don't forget the parade is coming up. Another one in Oakland. We'll bring it to you live 12:30 Eastern Time Tuesday right here on NBA TV. On the other side, the architect of the champs recalls the different roads to a trio of titles. Last summer, as draft night began, the Warriors did not own a pick. But after targeting Oregon's Jordan Bell, they paid the Bulls an unheard of $3.5 million for the second-rounder's rights. Nearly a year later, Bell was the only rookie to play meaningful minutes in the NBA Finals. Kevin Durant signing 2 summers back was the transaction that sets Golden State apart, but the Warriors have also consistently found functional pieces to complement their core. After his 3rd title as GM, the man in charge of that roster, Bob Myers, spoke with our David Aldridge.
Final seconds here of this 2018 NBA season. There's the buzzer. There's a new dynasty in the NBA. The Golden State Warriors champions once again, back-to-back titles, 3 in 4 years, and the latest with a sweep.
I know it doesn't get old, but is it still the avoiding losing as much as the winning?
It's hard to find out what these things mean. I mean, the first one is it's mythical. It's the Holy Grail. For me, it was just because I just didn't think that was possible when we won it here 3 years ago.
Yeah.
The 3-1 one was the toughest emotionally because, you know, I told someone the other day, I said for 3 days they'd probably had champagne in our room. You know, for 3 games, excuse me, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And then the next year with Kevin, felt like that year was it legitimized the first one in some respects because people even called the first one lucky. And then this year, this regular season was tough. And this playoffs was tough. I mean, Houston was fantastic. There's some great opponents. The fact that I can even talk about 3 of these things is hard to even fathom. But last year was more relief.
Yeah.
This is gratification for a difficult year and ending how everybody wants it to end.
The Houston series was so difficult. Was there ever a time you thought, we're not going to win this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For us to lose our composure, and Houston had a lot to do with that in Game 4, and lose that game at home, up 10 going to the fourth, I thought maybe this isn't it. And then to be down in Game 6 by 10 at the half, and not just being down, but being down and not showing the fight.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever words you want to use, but the championship pedigree, the trust, the ability, the faith, the character, that's what gets you to these nights like tonight.
Do you feel like the fact that this group has been in 4 straight finals kind of is a trump card over any possible objection that anybody might have?
Yeah, winning a championship is the only time you don't have to answer questions. It's the only time. 29 other GM, you have to answer what if, why didn't you, every coach, every player. You only get to have this emotion once, and it means you have to win.
Yeah. So how do you avoid burnout? I mean, this is a long run.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a real question. It seems to be more. Each year is more, if that makes sense. Not because we're in the finals. The game is growing, which is fantastic. It's a global phenomenon. Everybody's wanting to watch. The scrutiny grows the better you do. How do you live in that? And I don't know how to do that the right way yet, but that's the challenge, right?
I asked Andre this. He talked about the journey being better than the result, which I totally understand. Yeah. But how do you keep the journey from being stale with this group going forward?
You got to like each other. You got to really like each other. You got to respect each other. You have to understand some days you don't have it, and your teammates need to pick you up. And you know, it's the house guest that stays too long. I mean, sometimes you just need space. So you try to find people that are decent people in the worst moments.
But you will not ever take any credit for this, will you?
I don't play. I mean, I help them try to get a team that can win. You know, so that's for them. I mean, the joy I get is I'll go home tomorrow and somebody on the street will honk their horn, and they'll say thank you, and I don't know who they are, but I'll say you're welcome. And who gets to have a job like that? Congratulations.
It's a pretty good job, and he's done a very good job with this Warriors team. It's easy to dismiss it when you get Kevin Durant. Obviously, he had a part in the pitch and bringing him in, but you've done this job before. You know how difficult it is to assemble a championship roster. What has he done so well there?
Well, I got giddy excited when he said you look for decent people in the worst moments.
Yeah.
It's exactly right. They've got the right human beings. They've got the right blend of people. And that ethos that we talked about, Steph Curry embodies it to an enormous degree. Draymond Green does. Iguodala does. Durant was accepting of the things that he needed to do. They have a theme there. And they are about all the right things. And it comes from, Steph called it an authenticity about Steve Kerr. Bob has that. Bob's experience as an agent with Arn Tellem and WMG was really, really important. And it gave him a really deep understanding of players that would react poorly in this worst moment situation. He understood who those people were and what it looked like. So he was able to apply that lesson and those lessons to building a team, and that's a very special thing. And again, it's also helpful when you played at UCLA and you have the pedigree he had as a player. He really is so comfortable in his own skin that he's not trying to prove he belongs there. He's just trying to continue to help build what it is they're trying to do.
And isn't that really the same thing what Steve Kerr is about, comfortable in his own skin? He's not trying to prove anything to anybody. This is what Steve is, and I think that transfers over to the team. And a lot of people say the words that they know they're supposed to say about family and the atmosphere that's developed and the culture that they have. But this group has it. They have it and they do it. They just don't talk about it. You can see that. And I think that's the working relationship that Bob and Steve Kerr have, the coaching staff and the players together. They've transferred all of this onto them, how they think it should be done. This is how we're going to go about it. And everybody's kind of in it together.
Yeah, there's a realness about the folks who run that team and participate in that winning culture. It really isn't. There's no put on with those guys. They just are who they are, and they happen to be very good at winning championships. More coming up here on Game Time. On the way with the Cavaliers now eliminated. The hoops world is on LeBron watch. What the next phase of his career could look like next. Already a free agent here in the summer of 2018. I don't know if folks are aware of that or not.
A small little story. People
it's my job to inform, so I want to make people aware.
Appreciate that.
And the Twitter recruitment has begun from other NBA players. The teams can't do this. This is the best thing about the NBA. The teams can't do it because it would be tampering. The players can do it all they want. They can put him in different uniforms, drop him in different cities. He's a Knick, he's a Spur. Who knows what he'll be. Sekou Smith with more now on the King.
The fall of the King. You thought it would last forever, didn't you? You just assumed that somehow, some way, LeBron James would find a way, like he always does. No matter what the Cavaliers look like this season, no matter which iteration of the team showed up for this postseason,
2 seconds, 1 second for the win. LeBron James delivers. Here's James, powers to the basket. Thompson such a good screen. James spins, drives, count it, and one.
LeBron would find a way.
When you have the antidote named LeBron James, you have a chance.
Not this time.
Curry way outside, another three. Held to Durant. Klay Thompson from downtown. They're starting to celebrate now at Oracle Arena.
They all refused to allow the King one more minute on the throne.
Back to back.
The Golden State Warriors have won back-to-back NBA championships, and they have won 3 of the last 4 NBA titles.
Has the King's reign come to an end in Cleveland? He'll have plenty of time to focus on his future. What happens next? Only he knows.
Here we go. All LeBron all the time between now and sometime in early July when he either via a press conference or a blimp or a television special or who knows what, maybe just a post, I don't know, decides where he's going to play basketball next season. Could be Cleveland. He could just stay right where he is. Could be a lot of other places, and there's lots of speculation out there, including trying to make sense of, the salary cap implications, etc. Here is the man himself after his 2017-18 season formally ended.
I have no idea at this point. The one thing that I've always done is consider, obviously my family, understanding, especially where my boys are at this point in their age. They were a lot younger. The last time I made a decision like this 4 years ago, I got a teenage boy, a preteen, and a little girl right now that wasn't around as well. So, sitting down and considering everything, but, my family is a huge part of whatever I've decided to do in my career, and they will continue to be that. So I don't have an answer for you right now as far as that.
You didn't really think he was going to give you an answer about that Friday.
I was hoping.
Right? That wasn't going to happen.
Too soon.
You didn't think he was going to come out with a cast on his hand either.
No, that's a good point. That is an excellent point. I did not see that coming either. So here's some of the teams that have been suggested as possible destinations for LeBron with their available cap space at the moment. Some seem more realistic than others, but that's the way it looks. So here's my question, because I'm not going to ask you to tell me where he's going. I don't think anybody really knows. I don't know that LeBron knows definitively right now at this stage in the game. Do you think at 33 with 15 years under the belt, is this a basketball decision or a bigger picture business decision for him?
I think it's both, the combination of both. I do. I think his wanting to win more championships is very important to him. But at the same time, don't discount the fact that the business part of it is very important to him as well, as you can very readily attest to that. But here's a question for you. I'm wondering, tell us, is it easy for Cleveland to just bring other players to their team to keep LeBron there? Can they surround him with better players?
It's not easy for them to do. It's certainly not going to be easy for them to do relative to bringing in another max free agent type. If they were going to try to create space, let's say, for Paul George, they'd need to clear about $60 million off of their books to have the money to do that, to be able to offer max to someone else. So it's a very difficult thing for them to actually acquire the players that they would want to bring with them. They could do it within the framework of a trade, perhaps, but to think that the teams that are holding the really high variance difference makers would move them, I just don't see that necessarily as a good fit or a likelihood either. Not
many teams out there with those sorts of difference-making players really looking to help out the Cavaliers to keep LeBron James there. In terms of what he's thinking moving forward, if you're LeBron's agent, put yourself in those shoes for a second, what would your advice be in terms of just the basketball part of the equation?
Rich Paul and I are about the same height, so I can put myself in that space. You know, I think there's probably a decision-making that's going to go on from LeBron and his family's side that the agent will have nothing to do with. I think from an agent's perspective, what really you have to do is bring about the reality LeBron seeks. I don't think in this relationship it's going to be Rich really giving counsel as much as he's going to be paving the way for that to happen. And I think you look at the places that Rich has a relationship with, the places that immediately you know he has a connectedness to. DeJounte Murray was one of those tweets that we saw. That's one of his clients in San Antonio.
Right.
He has Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in L.A.
Ben Simmons,
so he has a connection there, and then Ben in Philly. So those are three teams that, for me, I would look at immediately as places where Rich has a direct connection. And if it was something that LeBron sought to really make his way to one of those places, I think Rich would be the one to sort of pave the way for that to happen.
You know, in terms of this series, you follow this team really closely as well. How frustrated do you think LeBron was, particularly with the way Game 1 ended, and then what was the carryover the rest of the way?
I don't know what the words are I can use, but you could watch his body language right there when you see that's the shot, the three right before the half, and you see his frustration. This is dribbling out the clock. Watch LeBron on this one because he's frustrated, okay? And then when you go into the timeout, talking to his teammates, you see the head coach standing by. Head coach is waiting for LeBron to get done. You're seeing all these things happen because of the frustration, because I think in his mind, he saw Game 1 and the series slip away at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it as like a tragedy in 4 acts. And in the play that you showed there at halftime, I think is the very first one of those.
Yeah, that video of him in the timeout was just so telling, watching his reaction when he learned that he had the timeout at the end of regulation in Game 1. Lots to consider over the summer for the King. When we come back, a look back at Game 4 of the 2018 NBA Finals, the clincher. Captured the moment. His team arrived back in Oakland, trophy on the tarmac. His Instagram account, love the film effect he's got going here. Looks like it was shot in 1962. Very cool by Steph. Very, very old school. You know, winning never gets old, and there's no reason to think the Warriors can't continue. They're already the favorites to take the 2019 NBA Finals after making the 18 championship look so easy.
Game 4 is going to be the toughest game that we've played in this series. We're going to need energy, effort, focus from every guy that steps foot on the floor for 48 minutes. know they're going to throw some crazy punches, and we got to be able to weather the storm. No matter what the score is, you got to keep fighting. Because closeout games are the hardest things that you can ever experience in the playoffs.
Welcome to Game 4 of the NBA Finals. The Golden State Warriors face the challenge of closing out on the road and sweeping their way into NBA history.
Biggest thing to think about is we're trying to win a basketball game tonight and lock in on all the details that you guys have trained for all year. It's the only thing that matters. Lose yourself in the game.
Listen, pros. This is a night that we deserve. Let's take advantage of it.
The Cleveland Cavaliers are in a 3-0 hole and will do everything they can to keep hope alive.
Golden State Warriors bidding for back-to-back titles, their third in 4 years. They don't want to win on their home court. They want to win tonight.
Curry now fakes, shoots the three at top end.
Still gets it to go. Another one of those circus threes. Durant cuts inside. Gorgeous pass there from Draymond Green. And it's up to 11.
Middle of the floor to LeBron James to Love.
Kevin Love steps into a three. That's good. Cavaliers answer.
That pass LeBron James stole by Curry. Fades to the front, takes a three straight on, knocked it down.
Curry with a terrific start.
Looks over at the bench, said, yeah, I am back.
Keep attacking. Keep being aggressive, all right? Come on, man. Here we go. Come on. Come on, man.
J.R. Smith grabs the weak side rebound. Here come the Cavs. Green, back to Smith, back to James. LeBron James with the flush, and the Cavs retake the lead. Good response there from the Cavaliers.
Be ready to withstand this kind of adversity. Stay solid.
If you look at the Warriors, you see toughness, absolute toughness.
How about the Warriors on defense? 7 blocks. This is championship level defense.
Durant gets the ball in the backcourt. Pressured by Jeff Green. Left-hand dribble. Spins to back to the right hand. Curry flares by, chased by James. Curry
fires away.
Good! Steph Curry over LeBron James.
And the Warriors are 2 quarters away from back-to-back championships.
We got to keep our poise, okay? We got to execute, all right?
Durant, Thompson three-pointer. Puts it in. Klay Thompson drills the three.
About as quiet as this building has been all night right now.
To the rim, sliding in, falling down, bank shot good.
Kevin Durant capped off his first playoff triple-double. Now the Golden State Warriors pouring it on, up 23. LeBron James congratulating some of the Warriors.